this is another topic for another day. We can
why I'm asking
it's
it's actually interesting because it is part of what we're discussing, because we're discussing about the vaccine, because right now South Africa has, according to what we know, South Africa has the highest number of people who have been affected by COVID-19. So exactly. So it is very important as well, because now South Africa is one of the first countries that are targeted, or rather chosen to be the first countries that are going to receive the vaccine because of the numbers. So if we're saying that the numbers are not correct, it still it still brings me back to the issue of how much information are we getting, and is it the correct information? Are we having the right numbers? So if we're saying that the cases of COVID-19 in South Africa may not actually be correct, that means that maybe South Africa is not the first country that should take the vaccine. So it takes us all the way around. There's no right answer and there's no wrong answer. I'm going to give you, Mr. Gilbert, I'm going to give you an opportunity for you to finish quickly, but I needed to address this because it's also very, very important. And you know why people are skeptic? This is one of the reasons why people are skeptic. People are confused. Now, if we're saying that the numbers are not correct, that means I'm in South Africa and I'm feeling a bit uncomfortable right now, you know?
Annie, if I can come in, the numbers, I'm not saying they're incorrect. I'm just I bring you into use your common sense. It's impossible to get accurate numbers.
I understand that.
Not that what the numbers that you are given are not, it is impossible. Even there's no country that can give you the accurate number of people who are actually actively positive with COVID now, because we know how people are behaving around this pandemic. So to say in terms of South Africa, comparing South Africa, this came from us comparing South Africa and other African countries. And my response was, we can't even talk about that, because even in South Africa alone, I'm giving an example, resources that are places that have higher resources and places that have lower resources. You see a variation in numbers, no matter how connected those places are. And I gave you an example of how connected South Africa and Zimbabwe are, but still the numbers are from Zimbabwe are very, very low.
Very low.
Because the systems for counting, diagnosing
are different.
Are not there. So you cannot say the percentage of people in Zimbabwe is so low compared to South Africa, because you really, I don't think systems for testing and surveillance are that, optimal in Zimbabwe. Even South African systems are not optimal.
I totally agree with you. And yes, go on, Mr. Gilbert.
To America.
Yes, go on, Mr. Gilbert. So yes, I agree with you, Tivani, because I'm saying that maybe Zimbabwe actually needs the vaccine first. I'm not saying that they should start with Zimbabwe, but I'm just saying because of the information that we're getting is also not entirely accurate. So it could be Zambia, it could be Tanzania, it could be any other country, but because we don't have the full information, it's actually causing difficulties in actually getting to the nitty-gritties and the solution to this problem. Mr. Gilbert, please go on.
I think Mr. Simon wanted to come in. Mr. Simon, please.
There's someone with the radio on. If you don't mind, kindly switch off your radios.
Okay, right. What I wanted to say is, without sounding being political here, right? I feel like each and every country, knowing the statistics and the characteristic of the virus and how it's growing, each and every country right now, they should not be number one in Africa or number 10 to get the virus. Roll out the virus, let all the countries start administering this virus to care, because remember, Africa is one country. It's a global, it's a village. Africa is a village. And by so doing, there is inter-country movement that is not being policed. I've seen people going to Botswana on the side of, what do they call it, not in the northwest, where they just in without any kind of administration there. What that does is, if the virus lands there from Botswana and the people, have not been vaccinated or have been vaccinated from one side, we repeat the cycle of second wave, third wave, and 10, right? So my point is, if without being political, vaccine should just be rolled out to all countries.
Yeah.
And stuff. Number two, I want to come back to the issue of information. Whatever we've been saying right now, everything starts with information.
Exactly. Yes. Do we have enough information that's going around?
We have enough information on COVID-19. No. The COVID-19 is the first variant. No. We
actually have we have some echo. Sorry, Mr. Simon. We have an echo. There's a radio on, so it's actually repeating everything that we're saying right now. If we could kindly switch off our radios. Okay. Okay, you can go on, Mr. Simon.
Yeah, I was saying, do we have enough information on the initial COVID-19 SRIS CoV-2? We don't. Do we have enough information on the new variant? Do we have enough information on why we are wearing masks? The people in the rural areas right now, they don't know why we are wearing masks.
They're just putting it on like fashion. That's why you see others using whatever they can to look good.
You see, so there is a lot that we still need to do to disseminate proper information. And I want to also come back to the point that Elbert raised about vaccine learning. Right? Guys, this vaccine has been just with us for over a year, right? A year or so. Am I correct?
The vaccine or the COVID-19, the virus or the vaccine?
Yeah.
Okay.
The COVID-19, the
All
virus.
right. Yes.
Yeah, over here. You're right.
Over a year. We have not enough information on the COVID. Even the scientists are still learning about its characteristics right now. So it's going to take time for them also to learn about the vaccine and to develop a foolproof vaccine before they can start learning they can start understanding the actual virus itself, right? Then I'm gonna go to the point where what you also Mr. Gilbert spoke about the mushroom, the sort of the mushroom, right? It's fascinating. We did that too, growing up. And what it says to me is that whatever you were doing by giving the dogs the mushroom is called fact checking. You were fact checking. So you see now it's comes to the fact checking before the stories are being put to the people. We are dishing out information and there's not been fact checked, and it becomes harmful to the actual people that you intend to give that information other than the self-life. Our priority right now, the prerogative of each and every human being right now, it should be to set and give proper information to the masses.
We've just been joined by Mr. Kabelo Evans Pohiso, all the way from Botswana. He is a pharmaceutical distributor. Welcome, Mr. Pohiso.
Hello.
How are you, sir?
Can you? Oh, wonderful. Am I clear?
Yes, you are clear. How is Botswana?
Oh, it's just wonderful here.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, under curfew.
You're also under lockdown?
Yeah, no, not lockdown, just curfew. From 8 o'clock, everybody should be home, no movements, until 5 o'clock in the morning.
Okay, that's quite interesting. It's the time of our lives, and I guess we have to do what we have to do. I believe you've been listening to the program since the beginning.
Mostly. I'm experiencing some technical problem with network here.
Okay, but I could, from what you've just heard so far, just in a few sentences, can you just probably make a contribution towards the topic of the day?
Thank you. It's very, very much for your invitation, Anne.
Thank you. You're very welcome. Thank you.
It's an honor to be talking to, I think the professor is there.
Yes, the professor.
I was listening to her opening speech.
Yes, I'm still here.
It was wonderful, great. It's really an honor to be talking with you. Technically, my point of view is that vaccines are made to teach our bodies to fight infection.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you are have been inoculated, those who have diseases, they still need treatment.
Mm-hmm.
So in fact, vaccines can stop people from contracting COVID. But here in Southern Africa, or should I say Africa, we have the old version and the new version of COVID-19. So even if we do take this vaccine that was created for us, I believe that it won't work on the second version. It won't work on it was made for before the variant came. So we're still going to have a very, very serious problem of people dying, even those who have even taken the vaccine. And we will be looking further for the complications that might come after for those who have been infected, or in fact, those who have been injected. I'm saying this because our vaccine, or the vaccine that has been made, the experts are continuing to assess that vaccine's effectiveness in real world conditions. There were clinical trials that were done during the vaccines, but I don't believe that there is an effectiveness of the real world situations. And that clarifies that the vaccines are now on trial here in the real world conditions.
Okay.
They haven't really, we can't say that they've been tested. They were tested clinically.
But not on actual human beings.
In the real world.
Okay.
Yes. No, they can be tested in the real human being, but when we talk about real world conditions, it's a different issue. There are certain stages that are usually followed, like case control studies, stuff like that. So that we have to go through to see that this vaccine has really been tested thoroughly. The effective assessments, we don't have those. We don't know anything about it. If there were vaccine effectiveness assessments that are availed, then we could be saying the vaccine is safe. But it is not safe, and also it might not work for us because now we are facing a new version of COVID-19, or should we call it COVID-20?
And the vaccine is for 2020.
Technically, the vaccine is for COVID-2019, but it's not for the new variant. Because if you look at the case studies today, they say it seems like the variant that is in South Africa and the variant that is in Brazil, these injections are not going to work for those. But in UK, there's a possibility that it might work for the new variant. So we will be being inoculated once we are not even sure whether the vaccine it will work. So why should we be vaccinated for this virus when we know that, or when they say that it's not going to work for this new discussion.
Interesting. There is an interesting angle from Mr. Professor all the way from Botswana. He is a pharmaceutical distributor, and he's saying that this vaccine is not going to work because we have a new variant. And I'm just going to throw it to you, the guests and the panelists. Tell me what you think about this. This is another angle. There's no right or wrong answer. We're discussing so that we get as much information as possible so we make an informed decision if we have the choice to make that decision. Who's going to speak first? Is it the professor or perhaps Mr. Gilbert?
I'm happy.
Yes, go on.
I'm happy to respond.
Yes.
Thank you for I didn't get his name.
Mr. Cabello Evans Pogiso. I think it's Pogiso, right?
Yeah,
Pogiso, yes.
So thank you very much for your contribution. And I was listening very carefully, considering your involvement in distribution of pharmaceuticals. And I think it is important that people like yourself also get the right information. You are mainly on the front line, and people will trust whatever you say, and because you work with drugs. But what I wanted to just contribute to what you said with regards to the variants, from my understanding and reading from the scientists that have discovered variants and are continuously researching the variant, the variant also has the spike protein. All the variants that were discovered, UK, Brazil, South Africa, and remember the variant, these are not the ones that you know about, are just the ones that you know about. There are many variants of this virus. All of the variants do still have the spike protein. And if they don't have the spike protein, means they can't be targeted by they can't enter our cells and cause a disease. So all the COVID-19 viruses that have a spike protein can be targeted by the vaccine, and if you take a vaccine, the virus will not be able to enter your cell, because your cell will mount an immune response and prevent that virus from entering the cell and mount and cause you a disease. So I believe from the science that I read and understand that taking the vaccine, having the different variants is not a problem. The vaccine will still work against all the different variants, because the vaccine was developed to get the spike protein, which is a protein that enables the virus to enter the cell.
Okay.
And all the coronavirus bacteria or SARS-CoV-2 contain that spike protein.
Mm-hmm. Okay, if you could, Mrs. Tiwani Mashaba, if you could just explain a little bit more, because you keep talking about the spike protein, and from a layman's position, I honestly don't know a lot about anything medical, I'll be honest. Yeah. And I think I can speak on behalf of a lot of other people. Can you explain that, and what is actually COVID doing to our system? And then maybe if we understand that, then we understand the symptoms as well, and we understand what you're saying about the spike protein. If you could just elaborate on that.
Yeah, so all viruses, remember, SARS-CoV-2 is a virus. So viruses, naturally, they will not make you sick unless they can enter your cell. We understand that very well from the HIV virus. Think about it from that perspective. Okay. But then in this, when it comes to the vaccine now, we need to understand, how does that virus behave? How does it enter your cell and cause you a disease? How does it cause a disease? From this virus, they've noticed that it enters the cell through a certain type of protein, which is the spike protein. Viruses have a protein on their shells, and then not all viruses are like that, but this particular one has a protein on their shelf, and those proteins are the ones that enable the virus to function. And for a virus to function, it has to be inside your cell. So, and if it can enter your cell, it can make you sick. It bounces back. So what this vaccine is doing is to make sure that the vaccine mainly is it's an imitation of a virus, right? So they inject it into your body so that your body sees that as a virus, or a foreign body, or a SARS-CoV-2 type of virus that is inside you, and then it then mounts an immune response, and then the memory cells or the memory it then produces protective antibodies. Those antibodies then it leads to putting memory in your body, so that the body thinks that, okay, we now know of this SARS-CoV-2. When you then get infected for real, the antibodies are produced from that memory that we know of this creature that has targeted us before. So it produces the antibodies that go and then attack the virus before it enters your cell. So now, how they are developing the vaccine? They develop a vaccine with a focus on the spike protein for SARS-CoV-2. So from what I know and from the science that I've seen of most of the variants that have been published, remember there's lots of variants that we also don't know about. We don't know the variants that is in Zimbabwe right now, or Mozambique, because we don't have the resources and scientists to study their variants there. So we only know of the ones that we know about. So we can't just say, okay, because of the one that was published in South Africa or in UK, the vaccine won't work. If those variants change the spike protein, I would say yes. But the spike protein is still there.
Yeah.
If the spike protein was removed, then I would say yes, a vaccine will not work. But then if the spike protein is removed in that virus, how is it going to enter your cell?
Interesting. Anyone else to make a contribution? I know Mr. Gilbert is dying to say something.
No, I'll go after Mr. Simon. I heard if Mr. Simon.
Mr. Simon wants to say something.
Mr. Simon,
Mr. Simon,
I wanted just to.
It's getting interesting. Thank you so much, Mr. Pohiso, for bringing such a different angle to this discussion.
I wanted also just to touch on what KB has said.
Yes.
All right. KB, you are on lockdown, right?
Partly.
KB?
Yeah.
It is lockdown. He says it's curfew, but it's actually lockdown. That's part of it, right?
Okay, you're on curfew. Okay,
Yeah, we are lockdown.
Yeah. So the word in the streets where I go, and we are having a banter, after production we're having a banter. They are now saying, again, don't quote me, this is not true. They are saying, why are they saying now that there should be a lockdown between 8 and 5? Does that mean that the coronavirus travels faster at night? Because they can't say to us, now, so whatever you're doing, and then at night you must be at home. You see, those kind of things.
Yeah.
In misinformation, lack of information, right? I just wanted to point you to what I was watching this afternoon. Prime Minister Boris Johnson with the scientist from AstraZeneca or Pfizer, I don't know which one it is. And they were talking about the vaccine, the rollout of the vaccine. And I think Professor, you need to help me here. What I heard was that the first vaccine, there are two vaccines. One shot of vaccine is not going to really help us, right? And Professor, if I'm wrong, please correct me. They say they are going to be two vaccines. There are going to be two vaccines.
Two shots.
So
Two shots.
This vaccine is a two shots. This vaccine comes in two parts. The first shot is going to deal with 95% or 75% of your immune system is going to strengthen the immune system by 75%. And the second is just going to consolidate in terms of the new, whatever, if they are new, but what you were saying that for as long as there is the spike, the vaccine has got a spike protein, it means even the virus has got the vaccine will work, but there are reservations. I don't think they have really, even with the scientists themselves, I don't think they are still sure about how it's going to deal with the new mutations, because this virus is still going to mutate and it's still going to give us different variants. So my point is just that the current vaccine might work on the COVID-19, which is what they tested and really scrutinized for, but it will still work on the new variant and so forth. It's not too different. The characteristics are the same. It will work on the new.
Okay.
So also, just to add to that, also we can't be 100% of anything with regards to this vaccine. As I said earlier, we're using theory and just our background knowledge of science, but this is a drug, right? So any drugs have side effects, have adverse effects, and we have to give it time. So we might, 6 months later, there might be stories of some people with horrible adverse effects, and then we'll be talking about that then. But for now, we are basing on the science that we know now. This is a new drug, a new vaccine. It's still going to be rolled out, and then we are still going to see how people react to it. But the science is telling us that we can trust it now.
There's a question that Mr. Weston has. Sorry, if you don't mind, Mr. Gilbert, just hold on 1 second. Mr. Weston, Pastor Weston Moranda, he has a question and he's been holding. He just wants to ask the question and then leave you guys to discuss, and then we can get back into the discussion. Pastor Weston?
Thank you.
Pastor Weston Moranda.
Thank you, Anne. Thank you.
How is the UK?
UK is fine, cold, but yeah, we are okay. The numbers are still up.
Yes, we heard that the numbers are spiked up.
Yeah, numbers are still up, and but we continue to follow the guidelines we have been given by the government, and but the bless of God as well. We thank God for His protection.
Yeah, thank you so much for being part of the panelists. I'm sorry, I should have actually put you on the list, because you have been making such a huge contribution to the shows since we started with the COVID-19 topics.
No, that's okay. I'm actually learning from the people that are on the panel, great people on the panel, and I'm enjoying the discussion. And today I don't want to contribute much. I just want to pose a question, and then I will listen on the radio. My question is that in the UK currently, we have almost nearly 6 million, 5.8 million people that have received the first dose, and nearly 500,000 have received the second dose. Now, and these numbers are obviously including the whites and the people, all races, but obviously being UK being the majority white people, so I'll presume, of course, I think the numbers, how many are whites or black, but I'll presume whites being the majority of the population in the UK, so this number will obviously have a majority white people, but I don't have that information. Having said that, I want to pose a question that when we are saying that Africa should not receive the vaccine, yet I'm still yet to find scientific evidence which proves that the vaccine It's got some. It does not. It does not work. It works against the black person. I'm still yet to receive to read about that or to hear somebody.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you. But can you hold on, please? I've just added you. Sorry, I've just added someone, Simba. I'm going to introduce you in a bit, but right now, Pastor Weston Miranda is speaking. If you could just hold on. Thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Can I carry on?
You can go on, Pastor Weston Miranda. Sorry about that.
Yeah. So I was saying that I'm still waiting to get scientific evidence supporting the notion that the vaccine works against the black person.
Mm-hmm.
I've not had. All I've had, on social media, on the people talking on different websites, are just conspiracy theories. So that's my greatest concern. That once personally, I still need more information.
Mm-hmm.
If there is anything that in the vaccine that works against the black people, I would like to know that. I've not seen that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think personally, I think we need to be careful when we say the vaccine should not come to Africa,
mm-hmm.
when we don't have scientific evidence that says this vaccine works against the black person. Now, the same vaccine is being used in UK. Whilst Africa, we're still trying to figure out whether we should take the vaccine or not. The vaccine is being used, like I said, 5.8 million people in the UK have received the first dose,
mm-hmm.
500,000 on the second dose.
Mm-hmm.
So if this vaccine was made against a black person,
mm-hmm.
when you are in the UK, you go to get the vaccine. There's no a vaccine for black people. There's no vaccine for white people. General medicine that we teach when we go to the doctor. If you're going, when we go to the doctor and you are receiving any Panadol, whatever medicine, be it whatever medicine for HIV or what, there's no medicine for a black person and a white person.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm glad we've got the doctor here. I think the doctor, if he can help us when you do anatomy when you did your education for anatomy, I don't know whether there is anatomy for a white person and anatomy for a black person.
Mm-hmm.
You can help us.
Quite interesting.
That's the question I need to on the list, and then I'll be glad to hear your thoughts on the panel list. Thank you very much, Anne.
Pastor Weston Miranda, if you can stay, if you're not in a hurry, if you can stay, because I know there are questions that are going to be posed to you very soon. If you could just hold on for a few minutes, if you don't mind. Okay.
Okay, that's fine.
All right, Mr. Gilbert, do you have something to say? You wanted to say something after Professor Thompson?
Yes, thank you so much. I've written a lot of things here, so I might seem like I'm taking you back to where you've already come from. But kindly bear with me.
We will bear with you, definitely. Go on.
Let me start with where the pastor who just posed the question. Mm-hmm. Is there a vaccine for black people and a vaccine for white people? Mm-hmm. I think the narrative of race and ethnicity is not coming from Africa per se. Mm-hmm. It's coming from the places where the virus has been manufactured, mm-hmm. where they are saying, let's give preference to this. When you were listening, when I spoke initially, I said it is the language that becomes worrisome. Mm-hmm. The language where it's deemed to be racial justice to first give it to, when it's being justified why black people should receive it first. Mm-hmm. So the narrative for race is not coming from us as Africans. The narrative for race is coming from the manufacturers of the vaccine. Mm-hmm. So that is one thing that has to be noted there, mm-hmm. because we're not going to the hospital to say I need Panadol for a black person or Panadol for a white. It's the narrative within the circles of the people that are manufacturing the virus. And going back to my brother Kabelo, he brought up a very interesting approach to the whole thing.
And, in his wisdom as a pharmaceutical expert and guru, you see he has given us a perspective that we really should sit down and think about. But also, in that same vein, let me also touch on what Mr. Simon was speaking about in terms of, information dissemination. I think the professor here should really help us to understand. I think the point that we raised has also been alluded to by Mr. Simon, where we said all these restrictions and COVID-19 regulations, are they really helping in dealing with the situation at hand? Are they really helping? And, I like the fact that Pastor is coming with statistics, an informed position where he's saying 5.8 vials have been administered in the UK and another for the first dose and another 500,000, 500,000 for the second dose, right? You see, these effects of this activity that has happened now, we are not going to see now. It's going to take some time for us to start to see the effects. Okay, like what the professor was saying earlier on, we're not going to see the effect of the drug immediately. So the question really where we are posing as Africans is, why are we in a hurry to do this? Is there a real impending emergency in terms of administering of drugs, or we need to change some things in terms of our conduct and our day-to-day life? We are naturally an interactive people. And the way this disease is moved from or migrates from one place to place or infects people is due to a customized or an official way of conducting our lifestyles as human beings. Can we not restrict in the meantime this? Because you see, the thing that you are not realizing about the vaccine is different from other drugs where we take maybe 100 people, select people from a population and we put them inside a laboratory and experiment on them. We are doing this at a full scale, at a world scale, actually. So if anything is to go wrong, we are wiping the whole generation.
True.
So all those things, I don't know. Maybe the professor can educate this layman in terms of understanding, because this is an experiment done at a very large scale. Instead of taking a section of the population, we're taking the whole population.
Yeah, the professor actually, her network is affecting the call, so she's been kicked out. We're trying to get her back in. But she also mentioned that when the vaccine comes into South Africa, the first thing that they're going to do, or hopefully going to do, is to also test and make sure that it's safe for the South African people. And I think that is going to happen to all our African countries. I hope so, that they will also test and not just believe that since it's coming and it's packaged, it's ready to go. They should also do their thorough research. And the professor also said that they would normally, with every vaccine, that process has to take place, and hopefully it will also take place from a country to country individual here in Africa.
Yes, I hear you there, and I hear the professor very well when she makes that point. But the question is, even the manufacturers of the virus, of the vaccine, of the vaccine, are not sure of the effect that the vaccine is going to have on the human body. Because a vaccine, like our brother Kabelo rightfully taught us, it's put into the system of the body to train the body to fight against a virus. You see? So using a layman's terminology, you see, maybe a vaccine might be considered cheerleaders. People who cheer on people in a football match or something like that, so that they can perform better. You understand? So at the end of the day, the effects that this external agent is going to have, biological agent is going to have when it gets into the body, is only going to be seen with time. So the problem that I'm having when I'm making this assertion that we should be tread on the side of caution when it comes to accepting the admittance of this vaccine is because normally, scientifically, the professor would have corrected me if someone on the panel can, then, they can also. You see, the issue is normally when we take what we call a test group, which is a small part of the population, and we test with those. We keep them for a period of time. We see the side effects. That's when we learn the side effects of all the medications that we take, because there's been a test group that has been taken. My question is, if we are going to devote the whole population to become a test group, then something goes wrong. Then what? Not only for Africa, but for the world. Then what?
I think I can pose that question also to firstly to Pastor Weston Miranda, because you, Pastor Weston, I'm sure you're there. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Yes. So you're saying that 5.8 million people have been tested, have taken the virus on the first dose, and about 500,000 have taken the vaccine, and 500,000 have taken the second dose of the vaccine. So there hasn't been any side effects. There hasn't been any negative results.
Like any other medicine, there will be a few. There will be some will have side effects, just like any other medicine. Some will you get side effects. React to Panadol, some react to penicillin, and so forth. So obviously, you will get some people who will have side effects. But if they were the number was so significant that it was causing a big risk to the population, by now knowing how the government of UK work, I'm sure by now they would have stopped it. Not saying that they're perfect, not saying that they don't make mistakes. They've made mistakes in the past, making decisions about different issues. Politicians have made mistakes. But on this one, I think if by now, if there was a lot of people reacting and it was causing a big concern, they would have stopped it. But what I can say is, up to now, they are still encouraging people to get the doses, and they have not stopped. They have not raised any concern. So I think based on that, there's not been any major concern with the vaccine.
Okay, can I come in there while the pastor to ask him? Can I stay there? I just need to pose a question to the pastor.
Yes, go on.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, pastor. Out of the 5.8 million that got, I'm not worried about the second dose. I'm worried about the first shot of the vial. Out of the 5.8, regardless of race, right? I just want to fact check the authenticity of the vaccine in order to quell some of the concerns that the African people have. Underlining the word African. Right. Out of the 5.8 million people that has been administered the virus, has there been any complications that came out of because of that of the vaccine?
Yeah, I think actually.
Yeah, remember, Pastor Weston Miranda is not coming from a medical perspective. He is just sharing the information because he stays in the UK. So he doesn't have. Yes.
I'm just asking from the public, from the information that is on the public domain.
Okay.
Not really the actual information that comes from what he has heard. Is there anything that suggests that this virus is detrimental to our health? A lot of people are devoting.
And also, maybe let me add on to your question and saying, out of the 5.8 million vials that have already been administered, if we had a change in the test results of the subjects that are incorporated in that 5.8, if they turned negative after receiving the vaccine, or what has happened? Is it positive or what? Before we go to the effects, because the effects might be experienced after some time, but at least let's hear about the test results changing, maybe from positive to negative. Would you have that information?
Okay. Right. The vaccine, I think we need to understand that. I don't know whether the doctor, I didn't, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Yes.
I don't know whether I missed the when the scientist or the doctor spoke the very first time. I missed it, but however, I hope she mentioned that. I think during the discussion I heard someone talking about it. The vaccine is not the cure. I think we need to differentiate the two. I think you were talking. I heard a few people talking about that. It's not the cure. So when you get the vaccine, it does not change whether you're negative to positive. It is something that you take before the symptoms. So if you don't get the vaccine when you have got the symptoms, that's my understanding. You get it way before, without the symptoms, to say you might be at risk of getting the virus, so you go and get the vaccine. So I think it does not change you from negative to positive.
Mr. Prohiso, please go on.
Can I chip in, Doc? This one is for the pastor. Literally, I think what the question is, are there any complications from the people who are having maybe an underlying factors before, during the administration of the injection? Because there are people who have other underlying factors. We don't know whether that vaccine might alter or affect those, maybe somebody with diabetes, that might affect negatively or positively. Maybe, is there anything that you can clarify a little bit more about that? Because here we are talking about the important information on how the vaccine is working in groups of people. Groups of people we are talking about, people who are not included or not well represented in the clinical trials. As even though you're talking about anatomy of the whites and the blacks, we have different genes. Genetic build-up is different from the whites and the blacks. So maybe on that one, even though those other medicines, injections and stuff like that have been made before, they were not for blacks or whites and so forth. But this one that we are talking about, I'm not saying blacks were not well represented during the clinical trials, but like we were saying, there are certain groups of people who were not included during the clinical trials. We can say people with underlying factors. We can say people with certain genetic build-up. We can say we can differentiate groups of people where there are those who are not represented, but they will be getting injection
without actually having to test.
When we say the vaccine effectiveness assessments. Are they there for us to see that if me, Puriso, I get injected because I have ABC in me, how is it going to react? There are no effective assessment procedures that are here on the table for us to see. So are we just going to agree to being vaccinated, not knowing what is going to happen 2-3 months later?
Okay, can I come in?
Yes, you can come in, Pastor Wilson.
Yeah, I think we all know that this vaccine came in and the clinical trials were limited. It was just rushed in. I think that should be our point of argument, to say this vaccine was rushed in, and without even the scientists. What I've read is that they don't even know the long-term side effects of this thing. They're not too sure of it. So, but having said that, I think we should stand on an informed position to refuse the drug based on scientific evidence. And I do want to point what Gilbert said, that it is also because of what is being said, and which I totally agree that there's a lot of things that are being said out there. But I think if we begin to look for scientific and authentic, credible evidence that says the vaccine does not work well on people with diabetes or black people or people with this, then we should be able to to argue to say, no, we don't need this vaccine. Until yet, I have not seen, like I said earlier, I have not seen scientific evidence to say that it doesn't work on black people. So why can't our African leaders pose those questions to the manufacturers of this vaccine and have scientific evidence from the manufacturers to say, is this vaccine going to work to my people that I lead in my country? And those questions should be posed to the scientists who are creating this vaccine. So, but at the moment we are relying on hearsay. We don't have any scientific evidence. And like, if they were,
can I also add on what you are saying, Pastor? Can I also add on just what you just said, right?
Yeah, sure, yeah.
That we are not too reliant on information that is peddled, that more specifically on the home remedies and but this is science that points us to say the vaccine is working, right? But we still put our faith in what we have seen, like your homemade remedy, like your steaming every day, things that have not been scientifically proven. Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, yeah, I totally agree with that. Yeah. Okay, over to you, Anne.
Yes,
but
I
just to say again.
Mm-hmm. Go on.
Just to say again, the information I gave, the figures I've given of 5 million and 500,000, if there was something that is going wrong, I'm sure by now
we would have had
government,
news. Yes,
with all the due diligence that they do in things, by now they would have stopped. And remember, the UK government, there are black people that are there, there are Muslims that are there, Asian people that are there. They are also part of the decision making of this thing, whether the drug should go on or not in the parliament and all that. And I'm sure they're also doing their due diligence within, to say, I'm a black person and I'm a lawmaker, I'm a member of parliament. They would be posing such questions to the prime minister or to the scientists who are leading to say, is this working for my people or not? If there were issues by now, we would have stopped. Yeah.
I think the question, thank you so much, Pastor Weston Miranda. This is such an interesting angle, and you coming up with the actual statistics is really incredible. Thank you so very much. And I think the question that we should also pose is that I think we are tiri kuita kakunyatsotaura nyaya iripo is not exactly about questioning the vaccine. Yes, we are questioning the vaccine, yes, but the actual question is, according to how I'm looking at the conversation, is the vaccine that is being injected in someone who's in America or in India or in China, is it the same bottle and the same medication that is coming to me? That is the question that we should be asking. Is it the same medication? Yes, it's been injected for 5.8 people have been injected with the first dose, 500,000 have been injected with the second dose. Great, amazing. And we have seen results, positive results. That's great. I want to see that same bottle coming to me. Am I comfortable and confident enough to know that the same bottle that has been, Susan in China or Mauritius has been vaccinated with is the one that's coming to Anne, who is here in South Africa and Johannesburg? Is it the same? Because now looking at that, I'm looking at a story that I read on social media. Mr. Simon Nyarongo, tinoverenga ba social media. And we Google, that's what we know, So there's a story that I read about the president of Madagascar, Anne Nhira Rajoelina. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. He came up with his own vaccine using natural remedies, right? So when he did, he took it out and he said, you know what, guys, I've come up with a vaccine and it's working because we have actually gotten people who've taken it and they are fine. They are healthy again. And it was refused. And there was a conspiracy and there was some story that I read, and then I tried to go back to it and it had really, honestly, it had disappeared. I couldn't find it. But I read some information saying that he apparently said rumors that the vaccine that was coming to Africa is different from the vaccine that was going to Europe. So he actually said, I am not going to be part of this conspiracy where I am sending a different vaccine to Africa and a different vaccine to everywhere else. So if you don't want my vaccine, that's fine. I'm just going to give it to my own people. So looking at it from that angle, here I am, Anne or Susan or whoever who is in Africa reading those kind of things, if you have access to information like that. And I start to question. So my question is the same vaccine that is being given to someone who is out there, is it the same bottle with the same chemicals that's coming to me? If that is the case, and we have seen 5.8 million people who have been injected and they're fine, then yes. There's no right or wrong answer. I'm just putting it out to the panelists. I also need to introduce quickly before you answer Mr. Simba. Simba, are you still there?
Yes, I'm here.
So sorry to keep you holding for long because there were pressing issues that people needed to talk about. I'm gonna get back to you guys to answer that question. I'm just going to quickly introduce him and just give me one or two sentences, and then we're going to put it back to the panelists, and then we'll come back to you if that's fine.
Okay, you're welcome, man. Hi, my name is Simba, and I work in the media, and I've been a journalist. I've worked in broadcast for the BBC in Hong Kong, so I've really got international experience, and I've got my 2 cents to say. So a lot of things have been said already, so I'll focus more on maybe for people to really understand, like as you say, for you to know where you're going, you need to know where you're coming from. So I wanted to speak on a neutral basis from a European point of view and from an African point of view, so our listeners can be able to make a decision. Because at the end of the day, I think the debate is all about, should Africans take the medicine? And I can see the confusion among African people is to actually decide. So I hope that whatever I can say can help people to come up with the final decision.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
you can just make your contribution quickly. We have about 30 minutes to go, guys. So we have to cut on the time that we speak, so that we get as much information as possible, if you don't mind.
Okay, so I'm just going to be quick. Obviously, there's been a lot of conspiracy theories, misunderstanding, double standards, distortion of factors, especially on social media. But as you know, for you to know where you're going, you should know where you're coming from. So that's why it's important to understand the background behind this. Because the question itself looks very, very simple, but there's a lot more complex issues behind it. Mm-hmm. And this, like for example, the relationship between Africans and the West started a long time ago. And as you know, when Europeans came to Africa, they came to save their agenda. So this is the reason why I think a lot of Africans are a bit skeptical about taking the virus, believing all those theories that are coming on social media or not. So I'm just going to touch quickly. The reason why I'm focusing that quickly is because a lot of things have already been discussed. So I'll touch a bit about Europe and a bit about Africa, and then just make a quick conclusion. Mm-hmm. So just for a start, this is to highlight, I might be taking you a little bit off topic, but that's just to highlight why people are suspicious or why all these conspiracy theories keep coming up. Like, for example, in 1835, Lord Macaulay in England came to Parliament and said, the way you can break the backbone of Africans to destroy their culture, their self-esteem, religion, and anything about themselves. So then there was a partition of Africa. Then we all know that European system was built to divide and rule. Then there's still the current cultural imperialism, which benefits them more than they do to Africans. So going straight to the point, the question remains, why do Europeans have power over Africa? I am going to be very hard on this, but it doesn't mean I'm not proud to be African, but I'm just going to be hard that sometimes we have to take responsibility for some of the things that happen. Like, for example, the challenge for Africa is that we have become special, blaming others, but we don't offer solutions. I'm saying this, and people can come up and say, oh, I don't want to take the medicine, or the medicine is going to be like this. But I'm just saying, for African leaders, why can't you offer alternatives so people can not debate whether to take it or not take it? Now, the fact shows that Africa has independence, but to run their own countries. Mm-hmm. If you shun your own institutions, that means there must be something wrong about it. Like, for example, if bakery, if I don't buy bread from your bakery and go next door, that means there is something wrong about the bread you're making. So I'm just trying to say that because instead of coming up with ideas to make medicine or things that can help us, we still rely on the Western people and then we criticize them as well. Then you can't expect people to respect you when you don't respect yourself. We need to remove the inferiority complex in ourselves, and nothing has really changed. Africa has always relied too much on European vaccines, polio, yellow fever, smallpox. So I'm saying this, like, what is the difference when you question the new vaccine, when you've already been taking so much vaccine? Like the medical scientists already say that people have been taking vaccine from a long time ago. So if somebody can answer me, what is the main difference? Why are you questioning this vaccine when you're already taking polio, yellow fever, smallpox, and even the HIV medicine, you still rely on them from the West? I don't know if anyone or you, the presenter, you can answer that question before I go forward.
I think probably I can come in there, my brother Simba. I think probably if you're listening from the first time I spoke about the language on how to prioritize the administration of the vaccine, which suggests there to be an overt and covert attempt to push it on blacks and browns. Like if you look at the journal for the CDC, they deem the administration of the drug to black and browns as racial justice, as an advantage. And, they speak of the disenfranchised members of the society, racial and ethnic minorities, people with disabilities, the underinsured, people who work in schools and nurses. Prioritizing specifically, they put this in bold, blacks and Latinos. So that narrative now is what then brings into question the aspect that you're asking now.
Okay, you're absolutely right there. Okay, go on. Okay, you're absolutely right, but... Oh, sorry, go on.
I just wanted to jump in as well and say, Mr. Gilbert and Mr. Simba, thank you so much, because I was not looking at it from the perspective that you brought it in, that we have been consuming so many vaccines, all right? Yellow fever, HIV, polio, all these, but why now do we have to question this one and at the same time, while at least we are busy questioning this, people are dying out there. And is it more about saving lives or preserving life? I think that's what we need to really zoom into. Saving life or preserving. Because the narrative that says, let's not take the vaccine is preserving. The narrative that says, let's save life is let's take the vaccine, it's saving lives. So we really need to look at, to scrutinize this and say, where do our priority lie here? Do we want to save life or do we want to preserve life?
Yeah, I think that's a good point, but the reason why I came up with a controversial point, I just try to highlight that looking from an African point of view, it's so much easier to criticize and to question things, but are we offering a solution on the table? Like, this is more directed to the leadership of Africa. You have to be a bit more political here. The political leaders, what are they doing about it? They all come on a big stage and criticize things. But for me, as a person on the ground, I want a leader that tells me, what should I do? For leaders, if you are a leader, your job is to come up with solutions. So even if we have conspiracies against Europe, but the question is, what are the alternatives that we can take? But so far, there's nothing. There's nothing from Africa that's coming from Africa. And then finally, let me just go quickly. Madagascar came, I mentioned about inferiority complex. Madagascar came and said, we've got a vaccine. But I did not see African leaders coming up and supporting that to say, you know what, we're going to go to Madagascar.
Thank you.
Wait, no, they don't. They'll go to the Europeans, the same people that enslaved them, colonized them, and do whatever they say. So can you see this is why Europeans haven't got no respect for Africa? Because they know you're good at complaining. You are a specialist in complaining and making excuses, but you don't offer nothing. For example, I'm going to go a little bit deeper. Africans fight for independence. They get the country, but they can't run it themselves. Look at when something happens in Africa, like a crisis, like floods, whatever, you used to rely on Europeans to come in and help you. So I'm just trying to say that we need to raise a game and come up, be part of the solution, not be part of the excuse all the time. Because the fact that we're always making excuses, this is why we don't get respect. And this is why nothing ever changes. Like, for example, you need to understand that before white people came to Africa, Africans had a way of women were still giving birth. People were coming up and know if you've got a tummy problem, you take this medicine, you are okay. But when white people came, all they did, they replaced African culture, African medicine, African way of doing things. So remember, they came into control. So they replaced everything that you had. Now Africans got nothing. Now all the old people are dying. Like, I'm a director for old people in Uganda, for example. I've been trying to say that we need to get the wisdom from old people, because when you listen to the old people, they will tell you, like, back in the day, this is how we used to treat people when a snake bites you. This is how we used to treat malaria. Wish that they had the solutions. We can build universities that can bring the wisdom on the big stage. Look at China, for example. You can learn about Chinese medicine and you can go to university to learn about Chinese herbal medicine. Africa has always relied on herbal medicine, which is natural for the body. But basically, because we copy European culture, we are actually rubbing anything good about ourselves. So this is where we become weaker and we become the dependency syndrome come about. So it's just a challenge that you understand that knowledge is in the past, not in the future. We have the knowledge, but we're not doing nothing about it. It's the same thing. Africa has got mines, but they don't know how to mine. Doesn't it sound a bit stupid? If you're being outsmarted by Europeans all the time, you've got to question yourself. Why am I being outsmarted? I have to come up with strategic ways to counter that. Do you know what I mean? I can go deeper and deeper, but I think because there's no time, I was just trying to rush. So I would just wrap it up by saying, like what has been said before, those in power have no ideas, and those with ideas have no power. I think people with ideas and people in power should work together and come up with solutions. We need solutions, not excuses. So as there are no solutions at the moment, Africans have got no choice except to take the medicine. So I'm not saying take, but I'm just trying to say the reality is, if you don't have any other option, you're not going to listen to leaders that just give you excuses, but they're not coming up with any alternative. So what do? Like me, for example, I question all this medicine, but like I said last week, I want to travel, and the Europeans are coming up and saying, for you to get on the plane, you need to take the vaccine. So I don't have no choice. But if an African leader come up and say, hello, you don't have to take that, I've got this, I'll take it. So we need to question ourselves more than to keep on blaming and blaming. This is why you see countries spend 50 years complaining about this one did this. But for me, if you are a leader, what is the solution? So I could go forever, but we haven't got no time. I'll take it back to the presenter. If you've got any questions why I think like that, I can tell you. But as for now, I was just trying to rush through because there's no time, and everyone's already discussed a lot more things. And I can't talk about the medical side because we had our medical expert, Tivani, explain it from a medical point of view. But I can explain more from a political point of view or from an African point of view, and I rest my case. So let's go. Let's carry on.
Okay. Here is another angle. I'm going to throw it to you, panelists, and tell me what you think about that. So he's saying that we do not have an option because we actually do not have our own vaccine. One, we have been taking and gobbling everything that's been coming from from European countries all this time. So now why should we say no to the vaccine? Why should we question it? And do we have a solution, our own solution to the problem? Because people are dying every single day. So we need a solution. So it's either you just take the vaccine and keep quiet, or you don't take it at all. That's what Simba is saying. Thank you so much for such an amazing contribution, and just bringing a very different angle. There you go, our panelists. What do you have to say about that?
Let me just come in there and back up my brother Simba. Thank you very much, Simba. I always like the energy and trust that you bring to the discussion. You see, I'll back up Simba in under 2 minutes and say, as Africans, we have suffered from a disease of xenocentrism where we appreciate things that come from without us, things that are foreign to us. We have been taught in school, they've been indoctrinated in the art of loving things that are not out of our own making. Last week I spoke and I said every problem we have in life is a result of the lack of one of the following things. It's either you have a lack of leadership, a lack of revenue, or a lack of wisdom. If you lack any one of these three things, then you have a problem. But now we have had like what Simba was bringing up now, the president of Madagascar. Actually, I don't want to classify what was found in Madagascar as a vaccine. I wanted to classify it as a cure because we saw the effects of the numbers dropping until there was almost no single case in Madagascar.
Yeah.
And we felt we have leaders who went to back up our African brother there to say, look, what is it that you have discovered in your own country? Bring it into my own country so that we can try and prevent the same pandemic from falling. But the moment the Westerners come up with something that is experimental, everyone is saying, let it be forced on the people. Yeah. Let's say it in endemic forms, even if people die, it doesn't matter. It's for the good of science. The challenge that we have is if we had responsible leadership in our countries, people would not be administered at a full population scale. They would take a sample from the population, administer the vaccine, see the effects, learn from there, while we put control measures that are critical. Things like we were talking about, trying to use our herbal medicine, trying to use our natural foods, from taking genetically modified foods and all of these other things. So as a conclusion, I think it is very important that we become not only talkative, but practical in our approach. When question things, at least suggesting positive and practical solutions to it. We spoke last week and we said, look, putting a curfew is not going to really cause the virus to go down or whatever, because you didn't sign a ceasefire with the virus to say, at 6 o'clock, stop infecting people. Start at 6 o'clock in the morning. You didn't do that. It's true. And
I'm going to
so it's important. It's important that we get to that
African leaders.
Go on, Simba.
Sorry, bro, just to comment quickly. The reality is African leaders have got no solution. The scientists in Africa, I'm going to challenge my sister Tivali. I think she said some good point. That the trouble is that there's no money. There's no money to carry on things. But the reality is that I don't think the African leaders have got any strategy. They just go like everybody else and go on Google and hear all these juicy words like social distance, blah, 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 and then they say it. But if you look at the logic behind it, like you said, my brother, there's no logic behind it. It's just trying to pretend to be busy, but there's no game plan whatsoever. So, yes, we have to agree with you. We need better leaders. We can try to, push the foot around that word, but that's a reality, But I don't want to go too much. I know some people got more to say. So back to you, Presenter Anne.
Well, interesting. I'm just going to read out a few comments from people who are also listening into to the program and just hear what they have to say about there's Cornelia, one of our broadcasters from Radio 54. She says that if some people want to take it, they should, and they should take it as long as it does not do some changes in your DNA, because side effects are not yet known. At least they should have studied it for 2 years or more. What about complications in the near future? Have they looked into that as they produce the virus? That is Cornelia. Thank you so much for your contribution. We also have quite a number of people from our fan group who had to comment on that, and most of them are very skeptical, and they're saying that people are dying from the virus according to social media and what they are telling us, like what we discussed earlier, that we rely on social media. So they are skeptical, and they're saying that people are dying from the effects of the vaccine. And they're seeing all the vaccination videos, and whether they're fake or not, but they are skeptical still. So how do we get to a point where we make people comfortable? Like what Simba said, we don't have much of a choice, and people are dying every day. And those families who are losing their loved ones are probably praying for the vaccine right now to say, can it come sooner to us? Because people are losing their lives. And then we have someone who's praying that the vaccine does not come to Africa at all. But then again, do we have another solution? And we've been talking about having our own natural herbs to use. Yes, those are home remedies, but how effective are they right now for us? Should we stick to our own remedies? Should we just take the vaccine as it is? This is my last question, and each one of you will just have to answer that and as we conclude.
Okay, I can answer that question.
Okay, I will at the parting shot from my side, right?
Yeah.
I would say, personally, you can only choose if there is a menu. I don't know
if there is a buffet or a menu.
Yes, that's when you can choose. Don't come and tell me not to take the vaccine and yet you don't have an alternative. Right? We are in a catch-22 situation whereby people are dying, guys. And when it hits you hard and close to your family, you realize that this is not playing. While we are sitting and arguing about the vaccine, it is not. It's moving. It is moving. So I would say better the vaccine with side effects, right? Than nothing at all. Because what other solution are you giving us if we're not going to take the vaccine? What is on the menu? What is the option?
Interesting.
You're right, my brother. Just like you said, if your parents...
So, guys, we have about 8 to 9 minutes. So we're just going to have about 2 minutes for each of us. And 2 minutes for myself as well. 1.5 minutes, actually maximum. So let's just quickly wrap it up. The question is, should we take the vaccine or should we not take the vaccine as African people?
Is that meant for us or for the audience?
Yeah, for you, Simba. Go ahead.
For you, Simba.
Okay, I'll go. Like
Sorry.
Like everybody said, I don't want to be popular, but I just say how it is. Whichever way you look, if your parents are in life support and somebody comes up and say there's a vaccine, are you going to come and argue that I don't trust this argument when you know they are going to die within 24 hours? That's the question. So sometimes Africans don't get too carried away with coming up with excuses and saying things. Like Anne said, either someone's going to die or they're going to take it. That's the way I look at it. I would want to be in a position where Africans are offering this and Europeans are offering this. Then we have the luxury to say, oh, I don't want to take the European one. I want to take the African one. But Africa is good at talking, good at making excuses, but no solutions. So I can go deeper and deeper, and this can become more political. But yes, it has to be political because we have to question our leaders. What are our leaders doing? Are they coming up with universities and tapping all the wisdom from their own people and making it somebody can graduate and understand how we used to live before? You need to understand the Europeans, what they've done, there's nothing special. They study something. Whatever they find, they come up with a curriculum and people can learn about the same thing and people can go to university to repeat the same thing. And you need to understand Africans had solutions for almost everything before the white men came. But the white men came and replaced everything and said everything you do is inferior. So you have to look at it from every angle, whether you're talking about medicine, whether you're talking about culture, whether you're talking about religion, whether you're talking about names. Africans are inferior by themselves in every way possible. People feel good when they are more European than themselves, either by your name, which sound more European, either by the way you behave, either by the language, either by so many things. So it's the same thing. Europeans know that we talk, but we don't offer nothing. So the only way we can shut them up is to come up with our own homemade solutions, African solutions for African problems. But so far, it's African excuses, but no solutions. Until we get to that level, that's when we get the moral ground to question them. So I rest my case.
Interesting. Mr. Gilbert, yes, go on.
Well, I think that even the Bible teaches us very plainly that wisdom is the principal thing. But I'll also be quick to quote a very traditional and old wisdom saying. I'll say it in the native language, then interpret it in English for our other listeners. He says, aikona kujigira uroi mukunyara hama, which means some people can be put in a catch-22 situation or claim that they are in a catch-22 situation, which they are not, and end up consuming poison just because they want to please the person who is prepared the poison. So personally, myself, I would rather resort to local remedies, traditional herbs in the meantime. whilst I deal with the bigger issue, because what's important is all these things that we are peddling because of misinformation and everything. We are dealing with this whole thing the wrong way. Instead of people getting information, what people are getting is fear. So fear is driving people to say, okay, fine, let's just take this vaccine. Let's just take this vaccine. But I wouldn't take a risk and a gamble with life. Because like I said last week, you live every day, but you die once. And how you die is very important. You see, I'll give you a very short 30-second conclusion. A person who can be diagnosed of cancer has got two options. Either to live life the right way, managing the pain for about a year or so, or extend his life by 2 years and still be bedridden because of chemotherapy and of hair loss and everything. So it depends how you want to die. So you should be given a choice as well. So I think it's very important for us to understand one thing, that in as much as we don't have the enough media and mileage to propagate or promote our own local solutions, we have in our African homes solutions to this problem. Can we just stand on those, be proud of our own solutions and deal with this, whilst we get to that place where our leaders will start to appreciate what we have done? That's my contribution.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And Pastor Weston Miranda, are you still there? He's not there. Mr. Pohiso, Mr. Kabelo Evans Pohiso, are you still there?
I'm still there.
Yes, in conclusion, 1.5 minutes.
Okay, now I think the speakers have said it all, but technically when they are saying it's a matter of choice. But one thing that I wanted to my brother Zimba to look more into is that the vaccine is in fact admitted to the people who doesn't have the virus yet. The only people who are bedridden, those ones that are not given the virus.
Is it the vaccine? The vaccine, yes.
The vaccine is only given to the people who are not sick, who doesn't have the virus. Those who are bedridden, they are not given the vaccine at all, because the vaccine is inoculated so that it can stop the virus from coming in. So you are healthy and you are given an injection so that you don't even know the side effects about. Maybe it's going to cause more damage to you than the damage that you are not going to even get close to.
Interesting. Thank you so much. And Pastor Weston, are you still there? Pastor Weston Miranda? Okay, he must be. I would like to say right now, thank you so very much to everyone who has contributed to this program. And thank you so much, Professor Tivani Mashamba Thompson. And thank you so much, Mr. Gilbert Makotore. Thank you so much, Mr. Kabelo Evans Pohiso. Thank you so very much, Mr. Simon Nyarungwe. And thank you so much, Simba. And thank you so very much. Special thank you to Pastor Weston Miranda, who is also one of our broadcasters right here on Radio 54. Thank you so much for your amazing contribution. My panelists, ndinokutendai ngiyabonga. I thank you so very much for making this show such a great show today. Thank you so much for your contribution. Amazing contributions there from our panelists. Oh my goodness, it was getting hot, and I would have loved to give them 3 more hours because it was fired up. But we're going to continue with the discussions again next week. If you just tuned in, you missed out on a lot. This program is called The Real Africans with your queen, the